Good afternoon and welcome to Talk It Up Tuesday, episode 3 with Team Brandstatter. And above me is Susie. That's Susie Brandstatter, our local council nominee. Is that what it is? Candidate. That's it. I knew I'd remember the word. Next to Susie, we've got Tina, and next to myself, I'm Tia, and next to me, we have Susan. So, Tina, can you do the acknowledgement of country, please?
I can. Team Brandstatter recognise the traditional custodians of the lands and waterways where we work and live. We celebrate the First Peoples' unique cultural and spiritual relationship to country and acknowledge the significance of Aboriginal culture in Australia.
Thank you. Today, I think we're just going to get straight into the questions today, I think, Susie, because that's what we've got planned, isn't it? We've got a few different questions for you.
Well, before we start that very first question, I just like to thank everybody and hope they enjoyed the show last week of the screen falling down on me. And one of my teacher friends sort of mentioned to me, she said, well, it's just who you are, Susie. When your whole world falls down around you, you keep going and you deliver the goods. She said, so I'm going to support you for council. So anyway, a little bit more secure screen this week. So now there was a question for me.
So the first question is around high schools, because I don't know if you're aware, but when I moved to Wilton, and like I'm talking 11 years ago, there was a promise of primary schools and a new high school, and the primary school happened because we turned up for the primary school, but there's been nothing apart from an upgrade of the existing high school. There's been nothing, no sign of another public high school. So what can council do about that?
I think that's really interesting, because I was a teacher at Picton High School, and in the late 90s, our principal, Kevin Garrick, told us about the upcoming Wilton High School. The primary school was going to be built, and by the time the primary school children got through to year 6, there'd be a brand new high school waiting for them. Well, as you've said, it's still not there. And I think it's a shame. It's terrible. One public high school in a shire as big as the Wallandilly that's still growing, and there's still no real solid evidence that a public high school's coming through there. Now, it's not something the council can do about. It's a state government thing. Schools are definitely state government, but one of the things that I will be doing as a councillor is I'll be advocating to the government that the Wallandilly needs a second large comprehensive high school, so that all students, all children in the Wallandilly are catered and given an opportunity to have an education. And so that is something I'll be advocating for, but it is not actually a council responsibility.
Thank you.
Okay, so this next question. So with our growing population here in Wallandilly, our public library in Picton needs to extend its hours, especially on a Saturday. Is there anything that you can do about this?
Now, this is a definite council issue. Council is in charge of controlling the libraries. So if that is the case, you can put a request into the council and ask them to do that. Now, as the population grows, there's going to be more need for a bit longer hours in the library. The library's going to need an upgrade because it's going to have to service a lot more people. So the council is going to have to balance the cost of extending their library hours, because that comes directly out of ratepayers' wages. But it is definitely something that a person can request, and they can put, if they don't get a response directly from council, they can ask a councillor about it, and a councillor can also put it to them and have it up for discussion, because that is a really valid thing, and it's something that a service council should be providing for our community.
Susie, when we're not in lockdown, the congestion in and out of Picton is absolutely atrocious every single day. We really need a bypass or something here. What can you as a councillor do about that?
Well, again, it's state government, so council can't just pull out a bypass, and they wouldn't be allowed to do it even if they wanted to. But as a councillor, I will be definitely advocating to the state government to say, hey, come on, you're putting all these people into here, we're accommodating them, we want to make this a really wonderful place to live, but you've got to come to the party too. We're providing all these amenities. It's your job to put in the bypass. Now, the bypass, the latest paper on the bypass has recently been released. It was up for consultation with the public. I was actually on those meetings as a citizen, and it is sort of moving along. It doesn't seem to be moving along very quickly, though, and so certainly I will be advocating that we push this along a lot faster. That bypass should have been started 10 years ago when the Walladilly started expanding, but typical short-sightedness, put all the people in and then notice there's a problem. So that's, again, something that we'd be fighting for. Let's get some more infrastructure in there.
Definitely needed. And speaking of infrastructure, we don't have a hospital in the Shire of any description. So there's lots and lots of development happening and no sign of a hospital yet. It really does seem a bit short-sighted considering how many people we have here. What can council do about that?
Again, council is not in charge of hospitals. The areas that council do things like Meals on Wheels and that level of community support. They can approve the buildings of for new medical practices coming in, and they certainly have been doing that. We've got a lot more medical support in our area than we did. I was think back to when I was a child. It was, you know, if you were sick, there was Dr. Brody, and that was it. And he was lovely, but very overworked, and it was great as more doctors came in our area, which is good. So in the smaller areas, things are happening, but that's not. But what we need is a hospital. Absolutely. I mean, we're building a city in Wilton, and there's no hospital. I mean, you go to a country town, you go to Dubbo, there's a hospital, but the entire Wallandilly doesn't have one. So as a council, that's another thing that I will be advocating on, is getting, let's look at where we can put a hospital somewhere in Wallandilly. Bowral's too far and Campbelltown's too far.
Yeah. Well, you know, and when there is an emergency, that's it, you know, like early intervention or quick response is huge. And knowing that, you know, one, you've got to wait so long for ambulances, and then you've also got the trip itself. It's kind of scary, especially, you know, for parents and, well, anybody really. So thank you for that.
Okay, so in areas like Campbelltown, residents can order a curbside pickup. So if I wanted to see something similar here, would I speak to you or to our state member of parliament?
You would. This is definitely a council matter. Rubbish is a big area for council, and it is in their control. So putting in something to the council is a request in for that. And also, and I haven't yet seen the results of the latest community consultation survey, but they did put out one about what the community wanted. Did they want to go from the twice yearly pickups to pick up once or twice a year each citizen, and they'll asking for people's opinions on that. So, and I really do suggest that when people get the opportunity to respond to these consultations, please do it, because that's our one big chance as citizens to really tell the council what we want. So that survey is going in. We haven't seen the results of it yet. I'm sure they'll be around soon. But yes, that is definitely a council thing. And if you're finding that things aren't going well with that, you can certainly sort of mention it to a councillor, but there is the council portal also where you can put in any sort of issue that you do have, and that can then get shunted off to the correct person. But if you don't get a response, you know, and say, you know, I've been asking, definitely talk to one of your councillors, because rubbish is definitely a council problem.
Well, that's been really helpful, Susie. So we can see that council's responsible for our rubbish and stuff and libraries, but not for schools and hospitals. What other things is local council responsible for?
Well, the short answer is rates, rubbish, and
Roads.
Yeah,
Roads.
Right, roads. So the biggest one of all, yes, rates, rubbish and roads is so huge. And so what we'll be doing is, I'm going to talk more about all of this next week because we're running out of time now, but rates, rubbish and roads, and they're not just little things, they're big things, and there's so much more in those topics. So they'll be for next week, where I want to really expand on what the council in each area is available can do, and what each other aspects of complaints that we have, what part of government we should be looking at, whether is it state, is it federal, or is it local. So that's what I'll be looking at next week. So looking forward to seeing you all next week, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Susie, for clearing up some of those issues or those responsibilities for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. See you all next week.